What if I told you one of rock's greatest anthems was scribbled with burnt matchsticks on an ironing board in the dead of night? Or that a medicine bottle accident created the most iconic slide guitar sound in history? The Allman Brothers turned a 5-minute blues track into a 22-minute live epic. Yet their genius died broke, while executives got rich. Two brothers forged by tragedy and eerie coincidences that defy belief. Stick around, this is the dramatic story of Whipping Post. The story begins in the heart of the American South in 1949, when 2-year-old Greg Allman's world was shattered forever. His father was murdered, leaving Greg and his older brother Dwayne in the care of a struggling mother who, at times, had to send them to military school just to make ends meet. This early tragedy forged an unbreakable bond between the brothers, one that would become the emotional bedrock of everything they would build together. Growing up in Nashville, the Allman Brothers were baptized in the Church of Rhythm and Blues. In 1960, a young Greg attended a concert featuring Jackie Wilson, B.B. King, and Otis Redding, an experience he would later call a baptism into a world of raw, emotional music that would shape his entire artistic vision. Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. The brothers formed their first garage bands, the Escorts, then the Allman Joys, playing old ethnic songs and blues standards. They even recorded a version of Muddy Waters' Trouble No More that would resurface years later in their legendary repertoire. But success, as they would learn, can sometimes lead you down the wrong path. In the mid-1960s, the brothers made what seemed like a dream move to Los Angeles, forming a band called Hourglass. But dreams can quickly turn into nightmares when you're dealing with an industry that doesn't understand your vision. Their record label had no interest in the brothers' blues roots. They wanted lighthearted poppy soul, commercial, radio-friendly material that bore no resemblance to the music burning in the Allmans' hearts. The result? 2 commercial failures that left the brothers creatively devastated and financially broke. This period of creative suppression would become a defining experience. It taught them that compromise might pay the bills, but it kills the soul. And it was this lesson that would drive every decision they made moving forward, a commitment to artistic authenticity that would either make or break them. But sometimes the most profound breakthroughs come from the most unexpected moments. While recovering from a horse riding injury to his elbow, a frustrated Dwayne received 2 gifts from his brother Greg: Taj Mahal's debut album and a bottle of Coracetin pills. In a moment of pure inspiration, or maybe divine intervention, Dwayne emptied those pills, washed off the label, and used that glass bottle as a slide to play along with Statesboro Blues. Dwayne had never played slide guitar before in his life, but as Greg would later recall, he immediately started burning. That single spontaneous act gave birth to the iconic slide guitar style that would define not just the Allman Brothers band, but an entire genre of music. Armed with this revolutionary new sound and scarred by their Hollywood experience, Dwayne returned to the South with a radical vision. He wanted to build a band that defied rock convention, one with 2 drummers and 2 lead guitarists. He methodically handpicked each member: drummer Butch Trucks from the folk rock outfit The 31st of February, bassist Barry Oakley, and guitarist Dickie Betts from the psychedelic blues band Second Coming. The final piece was Greg, whom Dwayne had to pressure to return from Los Angeles. "Sing your guts out," Dwayne told his initially intimidated brother. The new collective made its debut on March 30th, 1969 in Jacksonville, Florida, as the Allman Brothers Band. But their true destiny was sealed when they signed with Phil Walden and his newly formed Capricorn Records in Macon, Georgia. Walden, who had previously managed Otis Redding, recognized their potential as the cornerstone of a new southern rock movement. He convinced the band to move to Macon, where they lived a bohemian, communal lifestyle. First in an apartment they nicknamed the Hippie Crash Pad, then in a large Tudor revival home they called the Big House. This wasn't just about having a place to live, it was about creating a creative ecosystem. When they were broke, Mama Louise Hudson at H&H Soul Food fed them on a running tab. They found inspiration wandering through the Gothic serenity of Rose Hill Cemetery. And in the racially tense South of the late 1960s, this mixed-race group of long-haired musicians was making a statement just by existing together. It was in this environment that one of rock's greatest songs was born, though its creation story is the stuff of pure legend. The song's genesis came to Gregg Allman in a flash of late-night inspiration while staying with friends. As he would later recall, the introductory riff hit him like a ton of bricks. Picture this scene. In the middle of the night, inspiration strikes, but there's no light switch, no paper to be found. In a moment of desperation, Gregg grabs a box of matches and, using the burnt tips, scribbles the lyrics and musical notes onto the cover of an ironing board to capture this fleeting masterpiece. "I caught hell for messing up the ironing board the next morning," he would later laugh, "but I had my song." What Gregg had intuitively conceived was something musically extraordinary. The song's intro is an unusual 11/4 time signature, though Gregg only learned this technical detail later. His description of it was beautifully untechnical. 3 sets of 3 and 2 to jump on the next 3 sets with. The verses shift to 12/8 time, with the choruses in a slow 6/8, creating a rhythmic foundation that was both intricate and deeply soulful. But beneath this musical complexity lay raw emotional truth. Gregg's lyrics were a deeply personal expression of feeling run down and lied to, trapped in what he called futile existential sorrow. The central image of being tied to a metaphorical whipping post captured the helplessness and betrayal he was experiencing in his personal and professional life. Sometimes I feel like I've been tied to the whipping post." Those words would resonate with anyone who had ever felt unjustly punished by the world, transforming a personal lament into a universal anthem. Whipping Post became the centerpiece of the band's self-titled debut album, recorded in a remarkably efficient 2-week span in August 1969. Having perfected the material through countless live performances, they entered the studio prepared, cutting the entire record in just 6 non-consecutive days. The studio version clocked in at 5 minutes, a compact blues rock anthem that provided just a glimpse of the song's true potential. Rolling Stone praised the album, but commercially it was a disaster, selling fewer than 35,000 copies upon its release in November 1969. But the band wasn't deterred. They knew their true power lay not in the sterile confines of a recording studio, but in the electric communion between performer and audience. They hit the road with a vengeance. In 1970 alone, they played an astounding 300 days, building a grassroots following and earning a reputation as an absolutely devastating live act. Their legendary status as a live act found its perfect home at Bill Graham's Fillmore East in New York City. It was here that they decided to record their 3rd album, a live recording that would capture the onstage magic that had eluded their studio work. The material was recorded during a 3-night residency in March 1971. Incredibly, the Allman Brothers were initially billed as an extra added attraction to headliners Johnny Winter and Elvin Bishop. But by that final night, their performances had been so overwhelming that they were closing the show, a symbolic passing of the torch that foreshadowed the album's massive success. And it was here that Whipping Post revealed its true form. The performance begins with fans audibly shouting the song's title, to which Duane responds with a simple knowing, "You guessed it." From there, the song unfolds into a 22-minute epic that occupies the entire final side of the album. This isn't just a longer version of the studio track, it's a complete reimagining. The twin guitars of Duane Allman and Dickie Betts weave together in perfect symbiosis, each player's improvisation responding to and building upon the other's ideas. The rhythm section of Barry Oakley's melodic bass and the dual drums of Butch Trucks and J-Mo, often described as a freight train, provides a relentless, propulsive foundation that anchors the soaring guitar improvisations. At one point, the music takes an unexpected turn, slowing down for an almost abstract, jazz-inflected segment that showcases the band's incredible range and musical sophistication. This wasn't just rock and roll, this was a new form of American art music. combining the emotional power of the blues with the improvisational freedom of jazz and the energy of rock. The impact was immediate and profound. At Fillmore East was hailed as the finest live rock performance ever committed to vinyl. The album went gold and catapulted the band to superstardom. Whipping Post earned spots on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll and Rolling Stone's 500 greatest songs of all time. But just as the band reached their commercial breakthrough, tragedy struck with devastating force. On October 29, 1971, less than 4 months after the release of At Fillmore East, Duane Allman was killed in a motorcycle accident in Macon at just 24 years old. The band was in the middle of recording their next album, Eat a Peach, when their creative leader and founding visionary was suddenly gone. The heartbreak wasn't over. Almost exactly 1 year later, on November 11, 1972, bassist Barry Oakley died in a similar motorcycle crash, just 3 blocks from the site of Duane's accident. Both men were buried side by side in Rose Hill Cemetery, the same place where they had once wandered seeking inspiration for their songs. These weren't just personal tragedies, they were transformative moments that somehow fueled the band's greatest creative period. Eat a Peach, released in 1972, was a hybrid of live and studio tracks that served as a tribute to Duane. It featured 2 of their most enduring classics, Greg's heartfelt ballad, Melissa, and Dickey's Blue Sky, which showcased a final, beautiful interplay between Betts and Duane. Their next album, Brothers and Sisters, from 1973, was their first recorded entirely without Duane, and ironically became their most commercially successful, reaching number 1. With Dickie Betts stepping into a leadership role, the sound shifted toward country rock, producing their first and only top 10 single, Ramblin' Man, and the instrumental classic, Jessica. But success in the music industry came with a terrible price. The band's early contracts were devastatingly exploitative. They received only a 5% royalty rate, when the industry standard was 15%. Even as their music sold millions, the band members saw little of the profits. Duane Allman died with a net worth of barely $15,000, a heartbreaking irony given the millions his revolutionary slide guitar work generated for others. The pressures of fame also exposed personal fractures within the group. Greg's high-profile marriage to Cher alienated him from his bandmates. But the deepest betrayal came in 1976 when Greg testified in a drug trial against the band's road manager, John Scooter Herring. Done under duress to avoid jail time himself, this act led to public condemnation by his bandmates and the band's dissolution later that year. The story could have ended there, but the power of their music proved stronger than personal animosity. After a poorly received reunion attempt in 1978, a true comeback began in 1989. A 20th anniversary tour featuring guitar prodigy Warren Haynes and Derek Trucks, the nephew of drummer Butch Trucks, marked a genuine return to form. Their 1990 album 7 Turns was hailed as their best blues-based work since the early days, and they established legendary annual residencies at New York City's Beacon Theater that continued for decades. The Allman Brothers Band's influence extends far beyond their own recordings. They're universally acknowledged as the architects of southern rock, providing the blueprint for bands like Lynyrd Skynyrd and the Marshall Tucker Band. But perhaps most importantly, they're the godfathers of the jam band movement. Their commitment to spontaneous, extended improvisation and telepathic musical communication became the core tenets of the jam band ethic, influencing everyone from Fish to Widespread Panic to Government Mule. Even as the original members have passed on, Greg Allman and Butch Trucks in 2017 and Dickie Betts in 2024, the legacy continues through the next generation. The sons of Greg Allman and Dickie Betts now tour together as the Allman Betts Band, ensuring the family's musical history comes full circle. And what of Whipping Post itself? The song that began as midnight inspiration scribbled on an ironing board became something far greater than its creators ever imagined. It sparked a tradition among rock audiences, the semi-joking phenomenon of yelling Whipping Post at concerts by other artists, a demand that became a testament to the song's hold on the collective imagination. But the true power of Whipping Post lies not in its technical complexity, or even its emotional resonance. It's in what it represents. In an industry that constantly pressures artists to compromise their vision for commercial success, the Allman Brothers proved that authenticity ultimately triumphs. The 5-minute studio version was the concession to radio formats, the acceptable commercial product. But the 22-minute live epic was their true artistic statement, and it was this uncompromising vision that made them legends. The story of Whipping Post is really the story of American music itself. The ongoing tension between artistic integrity and commercial demands, between the safety of conformity and the risk of innovation. The Allman Brothers chose innovation, chose authenticity, chose the harder path, and in doing so, they created something timeless. Today, over 50 years later, Whipping Post continues to move audiences with the same primal power it possessed on that magical night at the Fillmore East. It stands as proof that real art that comes from the heart, art that refuses to compromise, has a power that transcends time, tragedy, and even death itself. What part of the Allman Brothers story gripped you the most? Did you find out something you didn't know about the song? Leave a comment below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more music deep dives.